chopper!
Howdy and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Got a special request from a viewer in the Netherlands. This is her favorite chopper, and there's a request to make a video of this, so here we are. So this is the 1961 Aurora HC-1B Chinook. It's kit number 350130, or also known as 350249. There was a significant price change in that first year of issue. The HC-1B is better known as a CH-47 Chinook. There was a name change right after it was being produced. And originally was designed by Vertol in 1957 to develop a new tandem rotor chopper. It was Vertol model 107 or V107. At the same time, the Army announced a need, I should say, to replace their piston engine Sikorsky CH-37 Mojave with a gas turbine engined helicopter. So in June 58, the Army ordered a small batch of the V107s. They were designated YHC-1A. After testing, the Army determined that the aircraft was too large to be an assault aircraft or assault helicopter, but it was too small to do the heavy lifting that they wanted as a transport. So they asked Vertol to go back to the drawing board and kind of do something that would be a little bit more fitting to what their needs were. The YCH-1A was improved a little bit and ultimately was adopted by the Marine Corps as the CH-46C Knight, which went on to substantial use all the way up until the Osprey started coming into service. So the Army requested the enhanced version, which became the V114. Then that was designated as the YHC-1B. First flight was in September of 61, and in 1962 was when the tri-service designation system came into play, thanks to good old McNamara, and the HC-1 became the CH-47A. It was capable of about 170 knots, which is about 200 miles an hour. It's one of the fastest helicopters at the time. Still is one of the fastest helicopters. I think it may be currently the fastest helicopter that the Army is currently flying. Over 1,200 of them were built, and they're still actually currently under production. Boeing eventually purchased a Vertol, and they are still being made to this day. So let's take a look at the kit itself. And so we've got some really interesting artwork on here. The box art is done by Joe Catula. Got his nice signature on here. So we've got the helicopter landing here, and you got some soldiers doing stuff, and they're unloading some sort of giant missile out of the back of this thing. Proportionally, this whole area is just kind of, not quite very accurate. I mean, this guy is huge when you compare him to the size of the aircraft. Even if you do kind of, perspective foreshortening on this, it's just very exaggerated going on here. Then we got a second one flying up here. But overall, it gives you kind of a neat impression of this new helicopter. Interesting, we've got the Vertol Aircraft Corporation logo on here, which I don't recall seeing really on any other Aurora kits up to this point. So that's kind of different. On the side here, we've got a 1961 date and the name of the kit again. Similar to this side. What's neat is the artwork just wraps around the whole box. Same information on this side. On the end, we've got the repetition of the top box art and famous Fighter Series part of Aurora, and this is a $1.98 kit number. So this is actually in between the two that I mentioned earlier. So gradual increasing in pricing. And same thing on this end. And let's take a look at what we got inside. And first up is our instructions. So we got a repetition of the box art on here. Important, read this information here, making sure that you're using Aurora's fireproof styrene cement. So that's good, so it doesn't catch yourself on fire while you're making a hot ship here. And an ad for their cements, both liquid and tube, and also for their enamel paints. Speed dry enamels, Aurora's revolutionary new enamel paints. Through years of research, especially for plastic models. So you can buy a set for $79 or 10 cents for each. Backside here's got a nice photograph of the completed model. Looks very plasticky, so I don't think that's painted. And then a listing of what the current lineup was. And if you would like to send in for a catalog, send 10 cents in this coupon. You can get a catalog from them. And then we've got a fairly nice history here of the Chinook. Information on how to apply decals. And first step, getting your landing gear together. Second step, getting all those windows inside there. Whole mess of them up front. Then we do have a little bit of a cockpit going. That's kind of nice, especially since you got so many windows up front. And fold open for the next section. And we've got assembling the fuselage. A couple of details on there. Then the rotor assembly. So fairly intricate assembly on the rotors here. Making sure that you're getting the front and the rear ones assembled correctly. Must be different size parts for those. There's your Lycoming engines. And then final assembly and your decals. And then here's a layout for the decals as well. And speaking of decals, here's our decal sheet. And looks like it's kind of yellowed a bit. A little bit of foxing on here. But throw these out in the sun for a bit. Yeah, these might kind of clear up a bit. So we've got a specific serial number on here, and that is an actual aircraft. Yeah, unlike a lot of Aurora stuff that is a little spurious. So this is a 603-450, otherwise known as 603-450, or 600-3450. This was a Boeing build helicopter, Boeing construction number B009, had Army acceptance on 29 June of 1962. It's one of the first 5 pre-production models. They were figured for what they were expecting the production aircraft to look like. It was bailed to the U.S. Army for Phase E testing. After completion, it was assigned to a service in Squadron Unit Unknown. In July 62, it was redesignated from the HC-1B to a J, CH-47A. The J stood for Joint Air Force and Army Cooperation for Development. Some of you may or may not know, but at the time, in the late 50s, early 60s, the Air Force was actually who was doing most of the testing for the Army for their new aircraft. So this was a joint venture, hence the J, for these test series aircraft. It was sent on August 16th, 62 to Fort Rucker in Alabama for the U.S. Army Aviation Board. It was the first one accepted there. It had some minor upgrades, a change in the Lycoming engine to the T55L7 with 2650 shaft horsepower. It was assigned to the Army Aviation Test Board at Cairns Army Airfield at Fort Rucker, and it remained there until it crashed on 19 March 1965 due to mechanical failure near Hartford, Alabama. The remains were recovered and laid out in Hangar 103 at Cairns airfield, and it was determined that the aft yellow blade failed in the blade spar transition area. The aircraft had been fully loaded to the maximum gross weight of 28,550 pounds with lead weight. They decided after this crash investigation that maybe it's not such a good idea to have solid weight in there, so they went to water ballast that could be jettisonable in the case of emergency. So I guess they thought that this aircraft might have fared a little better if they could have, dumped the weight when they were having problems. Three people were killed, 2 pilots and 1 crew chief. I've also seen that the listing of 4 people killed, but the majority of the sites mentioned 3 people killed. And in particular, one of the pilots was a Canadian, Lieutenant John William Shaw. He was on bailment to the U.S. Army, and he was 25 years old, born July 20th of 1939 in Toronto, Ontario. He joined the Canadian military on September 16, 1960, and he was the son of a warrant officer with the Canadian Army as well. So I was able to locate some images, a nice color shot of this aircraft, and a couple of the test one, while it's going through testing, and then also some images of Lieutenant Shaw. So we'll take a look at those here. Okay, so let's take a look at the plastic. This is been painted by somebody else on initially. You can see the inside here is how it was originally molded in this olive drab plastic. Then we do have a 1962 date molded in here from Aurora, and a Vertol patent is in here as well. Let's see those here, and there's your 1962, which makes a little bit more sense because the 61 copyrights on the instructions in the box. Place this after this aircraft or before this aircraft was built. So to be able to come up with these decals, which match the markings on the box top, would have to have been after this aircraft was built. So I think the 62 date's probably more accurate. But somebody looks like they were going to paint this in maybe a civilian marking and sprayed it with the silver with red striping. Not the best in the world, but this should probably be able to be stripped off. So we got these large fuselage pieces, and I think I forgot to mention this is 48 scale, so it's a pretty substantially sized helicopter. And let's get our halves together. So not too bad of a fit. Paint's not quite matching up on your tail there. And there we go. So, not too shabby of a fit. You have to kind of play around with it a little bit to get the, there we go. Got one big solid piece here. Nothing really representing the rear ramp area or opening, which would have been kind of cool if they would have done that with it. Doors don't open, so there's nothing for the interior other than what you saw in the cockpit area up there. But nice chunk of plastic. And then here we have our sprue with our rotors. Again, these have been sprayed. And here's the front and rear being molded on them. Some more shaft parts. Another blade. It does have a slight airfoil to it. Here's our hubs. Pretty nicely detailed, especially for this time period. And here's our landing gear parts and parts of our engine. There's some more. And then here's some interior stuff. So there's the floor of the cockpit. There's our instrument panel. Just have some raised stuff on it. The console in between the pilots. And then there's the seats. Quite a bit of ejector pin marks and not necessarily the best places. Here's the rear bulkhead. And those look like for the rotors. And some landing gear bits. Engine mountings. And here's our clear pieces. Fairly thick, like really thick. And not very clear at all. There's even some ejector pin marks on them. So right in the middle of those circles are ejection pin marks. This one, this one. So if you really want to make a nice kit of this, I mean, this is really poor. They molded. You probably have to replace that. If you want to get a good looking kit, there's a seat. Here are loose parts, and this one is still being equipped with the little triangular stand that was common with the Aurora kits at this time period. So there you have it. There is your HC-1B. Nice big beefy kit. And as far as other offerings, so you had this original one in 61, or it turns out maybe 62. A few more boxings where they changed the pricing on it. Other than that, the box is identical. In 69, they got some brand new artwork, along with the majority of Aurora's line was given new artwork. And then 72 went to the white box one, where you had the cutout of the aircraft on the white. And for some reason, this one turned into a side opening box for this one. That 72 one ended up being issued through some of their international channels, Canada, Netherlands, and the UK. And then that was it. This kit, as far as I can tell, has not had any other reissues since then. This seems like something that would probably sell well with Atlantis if they ended up with this mold. They've just recently done the C-141 Starlifter. That seems to be really popular. So maybe this is one that will be coming out from them next. Well, if you have built one of these, tell us about it in the comments section. Of course, you got one sitting on your shelf. Shoot some pictures of it, send it in, and we'll include it in our next viewer build video. And that is all for this one. Well, thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.